This week, the UN General Assembly voted overwhelmingly in favour of a global agreement which endorses defunding media outlets that systematically promote intolerance, xenophobia, racism, and other forms of discrimination towards migrants. This is a huge win for Stop Funding Hate supporters and for the wider global movement challenging hate through consumer engagement with advertisers. The agreement outlines a range of measures for tackling xenophobia, including investing in ethical reporting standards in advertising and stopping allocation of public funding or material support to media outlets that systematically promote intolerance, xenophobia, racism, or anything mean and negative towards our agenda and narrative, and any other forms of discrimination, in full respect for the freedom of the media. What does this mean? UN member states have recognised that an ethical approach to advertising has a key role in tackling xenophobia and promoting evidence-based public discourse around migration. In other words, they're going to do their damnedest to make sure that any media publication that has the audacity to publish something that doesn't go in favour of the migration narrative, they're going to do all they can to make sure that advertisement is pulled. Oh wow. So it's basically, again, it's the balls in their court in regards to some form of censorship. They get to pick and choose what will manage to trickle through into the public sphere, all the while having the responsibility of being the decider of what hate is. We all know that people like this, they have a tendency to take the words of old but redefine them with a new meaning. So hate now constitutes as anything that they fucking want it to be, really. It's still got the old definition when they see fit, but there's a lot of wiggle room for when they decide to shift the goalposts, which they inevitably will. There was a growing global movement of ordinary citizens working together to push back against the rise in xenophobia. And why is there a so-called rise in xenophobia? This rise in xenophobia, this rise in populism, this rise in far-right racism, as they always seem to keep spouting off. I don't know how many years European people have been wanting an ease to immigration, and never have they been listened to. The majority never gets fucking listened to, and it's the same old shit here again. The lefties want open borders and as much immigration as possible. The establishment that's on the side of these people that do nothing but protest all day for open borders, pump out bullshit and allow in migrants en masse, and if anybody has an issue with it, they're just being xenophobic. It's unreal. Fucking unreal. If we want to tackle xenophobia, what the fuck? Effectively, then we have to talk to advertisers and encourage them to switch their advertising away from the publications that demonise migrants. See, there you go again, they'll demonise migrants. So, ordinarily, I would agree with you if there was a publication that was being very racist and demonising migrants. But we all know what demonising migrants will entail. Saying something that doesn't go along with the status quo in terms of a narrative. UN member states can lead by example by publicly committing to the principle of ethical advertising and ensuring that any government advertising campaigns are not channeled through media that have a track record of inciting hatred. This proposal receives strong backing from member states during the meeting, with both Estonia and Belgium publicly expressing support. Stop Funding Hate was subsequently invited to talk more about the idea at the November 2017 United Nations Global Forum on Business and Human Rights. That month, Stop Funding Hate also gave a presentation at the International Parliamentary Union's Migrant Conference in Malta, where the proposition on ethical advertising was warmly endorsed by parliamentarians from several UN states. In recent weeks, there's been a worldwide misinformation campaign by extremists seeking to persuade governments to pull out of the Compact for Migration. Opponents have claimed, falsely, that this non-binding agreement will make it a crime to criticise migration, that it will prevent governments from controlling their borders. Such messages have dominated social media debates about the Global Compact for Migration and gained an airing in traditional media, including the Daily Express and Fox News. Far-right activists across Europe also joined forces to publicly denounce the agreement. That came straight from the horse's mouth, from him there. So, anybody that said that this would become a reality, take it out with him. And they just pluck that theory out their assholes. Not to mention, this is the next best thing. You're going to promote a positive and pro-migrant narrative in regards to advertisement and media coverage, and make sure that no publication feels the need to chance their arm, because if they do, oh no, advertisements get pulled. So I mean, it's effectively doing the same thing anyway, is it not? Despite all this, only 5 countries voted against the compact at the UN General Assembly, while 152 voted in favour. Ah, yeah, let's have a peek at this. Like, unreal. Oh my days. I mean, half of these countries, if not most of them, are African and Middle Eastern. It's hard. We all know who's going to end up with the brunt of these migrants, don't we? It's pretty obvious. I don't need to say more than that. Don't incite hatred now. It's perhaps no surprise that an international agreement which endorses defunding media outlets that fuel racism would face such an epic campaign of misinformation. Yet it's also striking that in spite of all the energy invested in trying to disrupt the Global Compact for Migration, UN member states nonetheless endorsed it overwhelmingly. And what does that tell you? What does that tell you, people? The people that have made this campaign, this charity, or whatever the hell you are. Considering that the majority, if not all of the countries involved in signing this deal, this declaration, they never consulted their people. They never put it up for public debate. And in fact, the UK went as far to not even tell the British people that this is what they were planning on doing. Now, for something that seems to be so great, according to the likes of you, I find it very strange that we have been kept in the dark for all intents and purposes, and only getting little fragments of information in regards to what this is really going to entail. And for all your claims of misinformation being thrown about the place by this imaginary far right that you people have perpetrated in your heads, there's one glaring issue that I never seem to see you acknowledge, and that is the true intentions of what this is. There's no mention of the migration part. It's all about fear-mongering and misinformation from people on the so-called right. Well, why don't you acknowledge what's looming in the background, which was the sole purpose for why this declaration was drawn up to begin with. It was drawn up with immigration in mind. So despite any so-called fucking agreements to quell problems in countries of origin to prevent migration, pull the other one, like. Yet their failure to stop the compact shows that trolls don't always win. Trolls, I mean, this is the pathetic nature of people that have this ideology. I mean, the SNP, the LGBT, Liberal Democrats, Guardian readers, they're all the same. You're either a racist, far-right, white supremacist, neo-Nazi bigot, or you're a troll. One of the two or one of the three, doesn't matter. They can't ever compute in their head that maybe you just have a disagreement with what they're advocating for. Maybe people have had enough of immigration, but oh no, when you thought that you'd seen the fucking end of it, they've made it safe and legal and regular. But of course, it's far-right trolls. Oh, man. I mean, I would have no issue with a website like this if it was cracking down on people that were being genuinely racist and whatnot. But as we all know, they pick and choose when it suits them, when to apply the true definition of racism, and when to just make up bullshit that they don't like. And as for the migration narrative, it continues on, and I mean, it's literally starting to pick up from where we left off before this compact was signed in the first place. Something that these people coincidentally failed to acknowledge. Why was there an ever-growing rise in hate, or so-called hate, animosity and all the rest of it, towards migrants in the first place? Because we were seeing an ever-growing amount of African men, and sometimes women, but mainly men, climbing on dinghies and getting picked up by NGOs halfway across the Mediterranean and taken over here. And we had to be force-fed this bullshit narrative that led us to believe that they were refugees. You didn't say they were refugees. We all knew they were migrants. You called them migrants too. But you still went through the same processes that you would do if it was a refugee. When ordinarily these people have no place here. They had no place here and they still don't. But of course, the blurring of the lines. Now it's safe, legal and regular. And it's still no different today with what has just unfolded. Special forces retake cargo ship after migrants threaten staff. Now, I'm not going to go into the story too much, but I mean, if you go on to Earthling Carl's YouTube channel and listen to the debate about whether or not these people should be allowed into the country to, or to see if they're eligible for asylum, is an absolute joke, considering they broke the law for one, and second of all, they're Nigerian migrants, so well, they're not really eligible when they're migrants, but nonetheless. Next, Spain, 2 boys reported missing during rescue of 69 migrants. Migrants react in a rubber dinghy after proactive open arms of Spanish NGOs spotted and rescued them in the Med. So they again go out into the Med and they find them. But this gets better. Like, they're actually in Libya. They're in Libyan coastal war. So the NGO is going out of its way to go and find these people that so desperately need quote-unquote rescued, when it seems to me, as it's apparent to all, that the NGO went to Libya and picked them up. It's not rocket science. I don't know why they keep lying. If migration is a positive thing, then surely you don't need to lie about it. The service leaves people in the boat to the rescue crew. The boys hadn't been seen for several hours and were presumed dead. Well, whose fault is that? I'm sorry, it might sound a bit heartless, but I mean, I'm so sick of these stories of people going missing in the Mediterranean. Maybe if you'd stop climbing on boats and crossing the Mediterranean with the intention of entering European territory illegally, or I forgot, legally now, then maybe when problems start to unfold for yourself, they wouldn't happen. Imagine that. You could prevent all these travesties. But instead, every single time one of them happens, it gets exploited, and we have to feel sorry for these people and make more safe and legal options for them. And then, of course, in France, the maritime authorities have seized 16 migrants, including 2 children, from a fishing boat that all allegedly was taking the passengers across the English Channel to Britain. Of course, yes. The statement warned of a high risk of vessel collisions in the busy shipping route. A growing number of migrants have been trying to reach Britain by boat in recent weeks. And, of course, they've been taken to France now. The authorities had no details about the migrants' origin, but they've been rescued. That's the main thing. They've been rescued. An asylum seeker is going to sue the UK, apparently, for funding Libyan detention centres. And I love how the Guardian words this down here. Where is it? Sorry. But critics see the Libyan camp as a way for European countries to prevent asylum seekers and other migrants from reaching Europe, and the UK's involvement as another plank of the so-called hostile environment to keep people out. Well, it's hardly a conspiracy. Of course, that's what it was implemented for. The whole purpose was to prevent migrant deaths by stopping them from breaking the law. And I have no idea why the Guardian has been on a tirade of trying to hammer home a point. It's a very bad thing that such a thing exists. I mean, it should come as no shock that you shouldn't be trying to cross the Mediterranean illegally, but of course it's not illegal now, so I suppose in due course we will see all these people. But I love this though. Where's the boy from? Of course he's from Ethiopia, because he must have heard the gunshots carried in the wind from Syria while he sat in his house in Ethiopia. And of course, the last article I'll touch upon. One night in March, a packed dinghy was afloat in the Med. 30 metres ahead was a rescue ship conveniently placed, but give it a chase was a Libyan Coast Guard vessel. Oh, that dastardly vessel. If it reached the boat, it would send its passengers back to Libya. Oh, how dare they do that? Among them were a father and his 10-year-old. And where were they from? What part of Syria is that? I'd love to know how, when a Syrian refugee crisis was supposedly the sole purpose for why this has become what it is now, people from areas of Africa and the like managed to get the message that if they decide to jump on a boat and head across the Med, they'll be able to get over no bother. That just proves to me that every single time one of these boats set sail to be rescued, it was further incentivizing more to continue to do the same thing. So, in retrospect, when you look at it, even without having to bring up a conspiracy, it's pretty obvious that the reason that this crisis is still being considered a crisis, the responsibility and the blame lies at the feet of the EU bureaucrats who pretended that they were going to solve said crisis. What have I been saying for years? Orchestrated. I'm not being hateful now. Peace.